Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Trey, and I want to talk about Milestone Return Infinite Edition and how it's, as I feared with my last video about how black artists and creatives are being lazy and going out the easy way when it comes to this kind of stuff. Now we got this Infinitive Edition of Milestone Return Zero explaining and, trying to add more to the Milestone characters. Especially, most people are more upset with Static. And I just don't understand why DC Milestone didn't choose good writers for Static. This is a flagship character, a beloved character, a character that people been wanting to see for years, and you put on Vita Ayala. Really? You put Vita Ayala on Static, and then you screw up his origins, which is more concerning than anything or whatever. And I don't even understand. And it's kind of like the artist Nicholas Drapier. I follow him on Instagram, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it looks like we're causing commotion or whatever." And it's just like, why are you proud about that? Why are you proud that the focus of Static's character is now tied to Black Lives Matter movement, to a Black Lives Matter riot? Do you know most of Static's villains came from the Big Bang, right? But now you're sitting up here saying that the police officers used unauthorized smoke gas pellets into a crowd of quote-unquote peaceful protests that we don't have no context for, because the book opens up with, the white police officers, getting upset at these students for protesting or whatever and stuff like that. You completely changed Static's personality. He's no longer the nerd geek boy that was picked on or whatever. I mean, there's even a part in the comic book where he's fighting his villain, Hot Streak, in school and wants to fry him. What are we sending that message for? Static would never have done it. Virgil would have never done that kind of stuff. Why did you think it would be okay to put that in the comic book? You get what I'm saying? Nothing was wrong with his origins before. You had the cartoon and you had the comic book that did very faithfully to the character, and you screw it up by making him a twink or something like that. I don't know how to really describe him, but I'm looking at Static and I don't see somebody that would have got picked on in school. Look at how he's drawn and look how he's portrayed. He's not portrayed as some kind of geek or nerd or something like that. And Hot Streak should not know his public identity like that he's Static. Like, it makes absolutely no sense. Are we kidding me right now with the nonsense? Why did you think this was a good idea? You literally took a character who was universally loved, who had mass appeal to black folks, white folks, Latino folks, Chinese folks, everybody who loved his original origins and who loved the cartoon and praised the cartoon till this day. And you retcon his origins and tied them into Black Lives Matter movement. Why? And then, of course, I hear people saying nobody says anything when they tied Captain America's origin to Adolf Hitler in World War II, because he was made specifically for that reason. That's what he was made for. Static not made for Black Lives Matter. He was made goddamn nearly 20 years ago. Black Lives Matter just came about. Why are you trying to use that as an excuse? Nobody says anything when Captain America punched Adolf Hitler in the face. You mean at the start of when America entered World War II? During the 1940s after Japan attacked Pearl Harbor? Yeah, America's bad for having a reacting to a literal war compared to Black Lives Matter movement that supposed to turn out peacefully that ends up being rioting because some people can't help themselves and make most not Black Lives Matter, but black people look bad. You know, ask that to people who had shops, homes, and stuff like that destroyed because of the riots. And what if their favorite hero is Static? Then you don't understand. A lot of the villainy came from the Big Bang and stuff like that. I would have preferred it not being in a protest. I would have preferred you keeping the original origin, update it a little bit, but make it where the gas had spread throughout Dakota or something like that, right? But don't put it in such a headliner. What you should have did, if you really wanted to do something with Static and Black Lives Matter, you have an event, a storyline that involves Black Lives Matter or whatever, and have Static have to deal with the villain that's trying to cause trouble or whatever, or there might be like some mind control character that's trying to like rile up the police and rile up the citizens to create pandemonium in Dakota or whatever, and it's up to Static to stop them. But because the people are so wild and stuff like that, and police officers are wild up by the Bang Babies, you know, mind control or something like that, everybody's like turning against Static or whatever and stuff like that. You could have did something like that, or you could have did the after effects of a quote unquote Black Lives Matter riot that shows both sides, the good and the bad. That's how you do that kind of story. That's how you bring in diversity. That's how you use a real life subject matter and bring it into the comic books without slapping somebody over the head. Now you slap people over the head with that. That turns people off. And I'm hearing people, when I was making comments about it in, you know, the artist's Instagram, they're over there like, well, you know, I'm being hypnotized by the man in the media or whatever. No, I'm not hypnotized by that kind of stuff. And it's just like, why ruffle feathers like that? You want people to read this book. Don't you want people to read this book? And they talking about, you know, well, we don't have to kneel to white oppressors or whatever. Newsflash, majority people in comics that read comic books are white people. I'm sorry to tell you this. You can like it or not. Just like majority of readers are male, white, and straight. You can't get mad at that and expect things to change or whatever. I'm just going to be honest. I am part of the black community. So when I was little, reading this kind of stuff was a death sentence, to be honest. You know, I was the Virgil Hawkins getting picked on or whatever by bullies and something like that, you know, because they thought it was stupid or whatever. And until, you know, got into sports or whatever and junk like that, all of that went out the way because I changed in an outer shell, and now I look completely different or whatever. But I was still into the nerdy stuff. I was still, you know, very highly intelligent or whatever, you know. I was into the comic books, the manga, the anime, all of that nerd stuff before it even became mainstream or whatever. While everything was rap, hip hop, you know, video vixens and that kind of stuff, and sports. That was black culture right there. Not comic books. I'm sorry to tell you that. But to take this amazing character that is universally loved, that everybody likes, and then to make it part of a movement that a lot of people are split in the middle about, and a lot of people do agree and don't agree. But for you to show this one-sided version of it does not help the character. Instead, it turns people off from reading it. And if more people are not reading the book, what is that going to do? Because every time they're trying to market it towards black people, it's not enough black people to support that. And then they don't do anything with it. The companies want Black Panther money from black folks when they do this kind of stuff. They want billions in one go around. So think about this. If this Static Shock comic book doesn't sell well, right? If it doesn't do well, right? They're never going to try again. That is a concerning factor that we need to have. You need to put your best foot forward. And I'm not trying to hear, oh, well, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and them had failures before or whatever and junk like that. We not talking about them. We not talking about them because they had years. This is your first time coming out the gate. When Superman and Wonder Woman, Batman, first time coming out the gate, they had to bring their A game to entice readers before they got worse or before they had bad issues. And people were engaged when they had their first runs, when they had issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, issue 10. You can't just throw out whatever and think people are supposed to read it and then don't, do anything with it or give a pathway or do something that turns off majority of your audience. You want people to read this kind of stuff, but to add in unnecessary origin changes that nobody asked for does more harm than good. It's weird. Out of all the character changes, why Static? You didn't really change Icon. You didn't really change Rocket. You didn't really change Hardware. Their origins pretty much still the same. But Static, let's put in Black Lives Matter. Are you kidding me? If anything, like I said, Milestone Returns should have been just a pickup. A small introduction to where the character's been at and call it a day. Not, oh, let's get political already. No, you don't need that. And I'm tired of everybody talking about that, well, comic books been political since the beginning. Not really. No, they haven't. Yes, there has been political moments or whatever and stuff like that. Political undertones, but never where it diminished the readers from enjoying it. If you really want to do political stuff correct, read Gundam. Watch Gundam series. When I tell you Gundam slaps you with so much political stuff under there that they make you question the side that you chose. You know what I'm saying? You need to have a balance. If you really care about that kind of stuff, you need to figure out a balance that don't just slap people over the head where you're only telling them that this is the right way, this is the right thing or whatever and stuff like that. Sometimes you can't just choose one side and not do the other. When you do comic books, you have to do an in-between and you have to show both sides equally. Sometimes, not all the time, but most of the time you need to let your audience figure out what is right, what is wrong. You know what I'm saying? You have to show that kind of stuff. You can't just throw it out there and get mad that your readers reject it. So it's really ignorant of them to do this to Static out of everybody. And then to put Vita Ayala on there. Really? Are you kidding me? This girl can barely write. She's a mediocre writer at best. And you give her the reins of Static out of all the characters? DC, you should have gave a writer that should have known something about the character. You know what I mean? It's crazy that you're giving me this kind of stuff. I don't understand why you treat black characters or characters of diverse as just those stereotypes. And then you focus on those stereotype issues all the time. The first issue of Static should have just been a modern take of his original origins and him saying, now I'm the hero of Dakota and I'm juggling school and life and being a superhero with my best friends. And, show him taking on Hot Streak, defeating him, and call it a day. That's how you get people involved so they can be excited for the future of this story. Now people are kind of like, and there's media praising the retooling of Static's origin tied to the Black Lives Matter community. No, that's not a good thing. I don't want any superhero to be tied to a political movement. No, they don't need to be. There are exceptions to the rules, but that is past stuff, not present stuff. No hero needs to be tied to present political nonsense or political sides. You need to be equally opposed to both sides, and you need to show both sides either in good light and bad light. You can't just do one and the other. Not at all. I just wasn't impressed by it. And it's concerning if this is what we're getting from Static. I don't know if people are going to read. And I'm thinking it's going to, Milestone Returns is going to be literally the new Age of Heroes 2.0. And that's really disheartening, to be honest. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.